Since the recent election of an environmentally conscientious Prime Minister in 2015, Canada has returned to a much more proactive position in defense of our planet. This, after a decade of a leader who walked away from the global environmental stage, essentially ignoring international initiatives to address global carbon dioxide emissions. Changes have to be made. The need to address high emissions is now critical. Many scientists believe that if we allow a 2-degree rise in temperature on our planet, we will face catastrophic consequences around the world.
People now can see the storms are bigger, that their seas, the seashores are being flooded, the droughts are getting worse. Each year is now the hottest on record. February set all kinds of records for the hottest month in history. So the climate impacts and the weather impacts are immediate. People know, and they're concerned. It's the real challenge, I think, for us is to get governments to take action.
This world is our one and only home, and every day we are damaging it more and more. In Canada's second largest province, Quebec, the Minister for the Environment, David Hertel, announced measures that would see the province cut greenhouse gas emissions by 2030 to levels that are 37.5% lower than the levels during 1990. Quebec's original target for a 6% decrease in emissions by 2012 was met and passed by over 2%.
It's a matter of will. There might be costs incurred. So if Quebec wants to limit its greenhouse gases by 37.5% in the next, 14 years, I think that is not an outrageous goal.
One of the tools in place that has helped in this reduction is the Quebec Carbon Market, introduced in January 2013. It is a cap-and-trade system for greenhouse gas emission allowances. Companies that emit more carbon than the allotted cap will have to buy carbon credits or unused portions of other companies' carbon emissions. They are also taxed on the volume of carbon they emit. Minister Hertel says that the carbon prices will go up over the years to come, and says that the Liberal government will encourage Quebecers to build geothermal homes, take public transit, and buy electric cars. Similar to Quebec, the federal government of Canada wants to reduce greenhouse gas emissions by 14% by 2030. There are over 14,000 electric cars in Canada, 52% of which are fully electric. There are 25 different types of electric cars available for purchase. Throughout the country, the government offers rebates on vehicles that don't consume gas. In Quebec, for example, the government offers $8,000 in grants for anyone purchasing an electric vehicle. Of the 10 provinces and 3 territories, 7 have reduced their carbon emissions since 1990, 2 have stayed the same, and 4 have raised their emissions. In Canada, carbon emissions are the greatest in Alberta, where the oil sands are. However, the collapse of prices in the oil market have significantly eroded Alberta's oil economy, and this shift will likely lead to a significant drop in their carbon emissions. Sustainable development requires that we fix our problems today without compromising the needs of future generations.
Yes, I do believe that humans can coexist with the environment. I predict that this might happen sometime in the near future because our technology is evolving at such a fast rate, and it's evolving in such a way so that it's now starting to become part of the environment as opposed to operating beside the environment. Technology now is becoming the environment, and because of that, since we humans interact with technology every day, I think that because of this integration into the environment, that makes us intrinsically intertwined with the environment more than the past.
It is about improving the standard of living by protecting health, conserving the environment, and using resources efficiently. It requires the combination of environmental, economic, and social priorities enacted within the policies and programs and requires action at all levels. Passing the Federal Sustainable Development Act of 2008 signaled a change in how the Government of Canada would fulfill its commitment to sustainable development. Everything now has to become safe and sustainable.
We have the technology, absolutely. Denmark gets 50% of its power from renewables. Germany last summer had days where 100% of their grid was powered by renewable energy. We know how solar panels work. We know how wind turbines work. We have the technology to get around almost all of the fossil fuel needs that we have.
The phrase cradle to cradle was coined by Walter R. Stahel in the 1970s and popularized by William McDonough and Michael Braungart in their 2002 book, also called Cradle to Cradle. This outline seeks to create production techniques that are not just efficient, but essentially waste-free. In Cradle to Cradle, technical nutrients can be recycled or reused with no loss of quality and biological nutrients composted or consumed. The term cradle to cradle represents materials that could be recycled infinitely. In contrast, cradle to grave involves not putting products' basic components back into use and by the end, putting those reusable materials in a garbage dump. Things that were recycled were never really meant to be reused, and recycling things requires as much energy and waste as producing a new one. Recycling only postpones the usual fate of the product by a life cycle or two. Thus the term downcycling was created. It essentially entails converting waste materials or products into new materials or products of lesser quality and reduced functionality, and repeating that process until there is nothing left of the materials that you started with. The attitude of early industrialists was that nature was a dangerous, brutish force to be civilized and subdued. People thought that natural forces were hostile and dangerous, so they tried to conquer everything that they were scared of. They wanted to take over and control the environment. Early industrialists considered nature and the environment immeasurably vast. Nature was perceived as perpetually regenerative and would absorb all things and continue to grow. Many people believed that there was always going to be extra land to move on to. Now we realize that the environment is losing their battle with companies and huge carbon emitters. We now have to find a way for humans and the environment to live in harmony.